Good night, and welcome to Mindful Life 500. Yeah, we reached 500. Whole week we deep in it. Yup, we in it. What is this? Shazam says, bro, we're late. We're late. We're very late. We're 2 weeks late. If it wasn't one thing, it was another thing and another thing and another thing, you know. As I said, life be lifing. Life be lifing. Yep, we're on 500 people. 500. Half of 1,000. 500 lives. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. I hope you all missed me. We were out for about 2 weeks, thereabouts. You know, one thing after the other. A tooth decided to ache too in the middle, so you know, all of that happened. But how's life been for y'all? Y'all ready to go fight? Y'all ready to go fight? You come out here in your bonnet. Say good night, people. What's up? Remember, Shazam is real. You and Ronnie trying a thing? What you mean? What you mean? What you mean by that? Ronnie? Ronnie, is this true? I waiting for her reply. I know she there. Ronnie? Ronnie, I'm seeking answers. Where did you disappear? How Ronnie just disappear when it's time to confirm? Lol. Alright, I'll take that as a yes. I will take that as a yes. If she put me up, I'll crash out. You humming? What you humming about? Yeah. Well. Oh, silly me, look at you. Well, you know, things could get different because our leader apparently has been picking a fight with our neighbors who have fighter jets and missiles. Personally, I think that's not a good fight. I am not fighting. I will not fight. Not me. I'm good. Might be for some other people, but me, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just chill. I'll just chill without the worry. But we have God on we side. God is a Trini. Eh? Well, good Lord. Now is a good time to use those Trini credentials to, get us out of a bit of a pickle. A slight pickle. Nothing too big, Lord. A slight pickle. Just get us out of it for a little bit. And the debate that I picked up over on X with some of the more modern-minded people. What you all think about Tanticams wanting to have closer to a zero tolerance and violent children in school? Is it bad to criminalize the teenagers? Is it a bad thing that we are criminalizing the teenagers? Good night, Paul Duncan. And are we worried that it's going to be something on the black people mostly? Trump is abandoned. True Real says abandoned by whom? I agree, the parents too. But people are saying we are going to create a school to prison pipeline. And that's what we should be worried about. We just change one government, the Maduro government won't be too much. Was a little Maduro lead in Trinidad and small thing. Smallest of matters. There's no change from one to the other. Let's see if we could jump into some of these stories, As I saw someone say something about Trump there. Deadly force warning draws Trump comparison. International relations expert Dr. Andy Knight, professor at the University of Alberta, Canada, has likened Prime Minister Camilo Prasad Bisesso's stance on Venezuela to one United States President Donald Trump would take. At Thursday's post-cabinet news conference at the Red House in Port of Spain, Prasad Bisesso sent a message to Maduro telling him to stay out of Trinidad and Tobago's territory, else any unidentified vessel entering TNT waters will be met with deadly force. The Prime Minister's statement came after Maduro claimed insurgents, mainly Colombian nationals, were captured by the Venezuelan military in the Sucre state located across the Gulf of Paria. Reports coming out of Caracas indicated the captured vessel also possessed war-grade weapons, Heading and sleep there. Go do. Say good night, people. My baby here with watching your baby. We have water trucks and fire trucks and horses and dogs in our military parade. Easy there. I love Ronnie. She knows that. Yes, Ronnie. It seems like you are well loved in these parts, You are well loved. But I think that is the whole idea of why Tanti said what she said. Her intention was to come across Trumpian. The purpose of it was to be Trumpian. The purpose of it was to give off that Trump vibe, that say what you really feel and shoot from the hip. Like, something I regularly say about Donald Trump is the image he basically portrays is the old uncle. The old uncle talking to you and telling you he don't put water in his mouth to say anything. That's the vibe that Trump gives. And it seems like Tance is attempting to give that same vibe too. I'm pretty sure that the comparison made there isn't strange. Trump is abandoning NATO. What will he do for Trinidad and Tobago? I don't think Trump is abandoning NATO. I think Trump wants dollars out of NATO. He wants what he considers a fair arrangement out of NATO. And if I were an American, I would agree with him. Now, the thing is, we are not Americans. We are not an American territory. So, I don't think that Tanti has the backing to be Trump. Trump could be Trump because he actually is. I mean, you don't have to like the guy, but he actually is the commander-in-chief of the strongest military ever known to the planet. So, his gangster talk and rubber talk. Alright, you could find, oh gosh, you're overdoing it, orange guy, give me a ease up. But he could give the rubber talk because he have the rubber to back up the talk. We don't. And the reality is, yes, I think should there be a reality where Trinidad and Venezuela come to physical confrontation, I feel relatively certain the US will jump in. But Trump has basically made this clear, and to me it has always been the case, but he makes it much more apparent that they're seeking the best US interests. They're not doing this just out of kindness for anyone else. They're seeking their interests. So of course the US would jump in for an opportunity to take down Venezuela and get re-access back to Venezuelan oil. Theon Graham says, bold of you to assume that they will. I am nearly certain that they will. But their intervening isn't necessarily synonymous with Trinidad ending up pretty well. For the US, they may be quite fine with Trinidad and Tobago becoming mostly rubble and them getting Venezuela and then using Trinidad as a nice platform to extract resources out of the mainland with. And we become a nice little, really and truly, just a port stopover for US interests. They don't mind. You know, let a few Venezuela, not even let, because even if the US wants to intervene, even if they have a fleet out in the Caribbean Sea, by the time the first few jets drop what they have to drop, and the first couple of artillery shells drop where they have to drop, there isn't much left in Trinidad to save. So, I do believe, yes, I think the US will step in, but to what gain? To what benefit? After we're just in rubble, maybe then at least you could get refugee status and flee to somewhere else. So us and the Venese would be in the same boat as refugees looking for somewhere else. Outvolve Tobago. Well, too bad. Mr. Augustine seems like he is well partnered with Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar. So we are currently Trinidad and Tobago. The unity is strong amidst our governments. You go nowhere, sir. and that's what I'm saying. Like, it has 6-7 gangs, send them on the front line. Gang ain't fighting a thing. Gangs waiting to scrape up from the rubble themselves. They're waiting to scrape up from the rubble themselves. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand what it looks like to me Cams is attempting to do. She is attempting to hold very strong to the right-wing populist American line. Become as much of a vocal supporter of Trump as possible. And to some extent, there might be an avenue for that, because the right-wing populists of the world tend to attempt to stick together. We saw the El Salvadoran leader linking with Trump. We saw the Israeli leader being over there quite a few times. We saw the Polish leader heading over. We saw the Hungarian leader. So some of those more right-wing leaders, there is some unity there. So maybe she's attempting to, get in that lane and hopefully get the benefit of that. The thing is, I don't know if we are at the level where there is even any benefit to that. Where, okay, great, you hold his talking points, but I'm not sure if we can actually gain political mileage out of that. Aretha asks, Nathan, what is happening with the children who are misbehaving in school? You agree with that approach? Yes! And I've been saying this for years. I have been saying for years, you cannot keep well-behaved children in the same school as bad-behaved children. It is a recipe for disaster, tragedy, trauma, vexation, and revenge eventually. It's a horrible idea. I've been saying this for years. I am not, all my children, all of my nephews and my children, they're doing homeschooling. I'm not sending them out there. And for sure, I'm not sending them out there. If you're telling me what we must do is for the good of the students, we must keep them in the school. Remember, though, we don't want them to go into a life of crime. So we want to make sure they stay in the school. With my child, no thanks. I don't want them there. And people are like, so are you going to criminalize the teens? Are you going to criminalize the youth? Are you going to make that school to prison pipeline? And here's the thing. I do not want teenagers to just go in prison and waste their life. I think that's the waste of a life. That's a waste of resources. It's a waste of the human potential. I don't want that. But if you're giving me an option between jailing 16-year-olds or letting those 16-year-olds continue to beat my children and my nephews and nieces in school, I would say jail them every time. I would say jail them every time. Throw them in jail. If the prison's full, build another prison and put them in the extension. If the alternative is them in school with my child. Like, I don't get it. And then, that is only a plaster to the issue Mickey B says. And here's what I don't like about this. Many people say that the real issue is a social issue. These children grow up in bad communities with bad families and okay, I feel the pity. To be honest with you, I don't care when it comes to the schooling, to the schooling aspect of it. I don't care. I don't care. The job of my child is not to absorb abuse, to help some other random child deal with their childhood trauma. That's not my child's duty to keep taking slap and cuff and giving away their money and snacks just to help them. No. So, okay, it may be a plaster on the issue, but I rather the plaster so it doesn't bleed all over my child. And then do whatever else needs to happen, do it outside of the school. Ronnie, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Brother Dina, brother. Yeah, do that extra training business outside of the school. Ronnie, I'm not even allowing you to go down that road tricking the people. Do it outside the school. When they go to gangs and become menace to society, then what Killer Key says? Well, Killer Key, the reality is they're still becoming gangsters. So here's what it is, right? We're worried for these students leaving the school and joining the gang on the street. So what we're going to do is leave them in the school so they could join the gang and sell the gang's drugs inside of the school. Brilliant! Brilliant! Come on! Now, here's the thing. I said the criminal thing as a comparison. I'm not saying criminalize the teens. That's not what I'm actually saying. I'm not saying throw them into prison immediately. That's not what I'm saying at all. If that's what you're hearing, I apologize. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is they cannot be in the same schools. So MyLat was made for a purpose, use it. There were once the youth camps, use them. YTC isn't supposed to technically be a prison. It's the youth training center. So if we can't train you inside of the regular school, we'll carry you to train you over there. That's what I'm saying. But when it comes to the free roamers and allowing free roaming in the school, we can't allow that of all students. All students aren't capable to handle that. We should take a more delicate stance than a get rid of these mini devils attitude. You see, killer, key. Do you have children? I notice these programs are in place but not efficiently managed. Make them more efficient. What I'm saying is, and this is why I said about decriminalizing. This is why I said about decriminalizing in terms of comparative. If it is that we have to throw them out the school and we had no alternatives, I prefer that than leaving them in the school with my children. You get me? And I recognize many of these over soft heart, over open-minded till the brain fall out, do psychology and social work degrees for nothing. No insult to your degrees. If that's your degree, more power to you. But I'm just speaking, you know. Many of them have no children. Many of them have no children. With their no children, not understanding what parents feel when hearing about what can happen to their child. You're sending your child to be locked in an institute for 8 hours a day. Listen, when I see you show me a video with a girl and she have patches of her hair strewn bloodied around the toilet where they beat her to hospitalization levels. And I just picture if in the alternate universe that's mine. You know, I pray to God that I don't have to reach in that situation where I have to ask him to bring me off the edge. Because I know for sure I will be on the edge and I'll be very willing to jump. I am telling you, I would be on the edge, very willing to jump. I don't want to have to pray those prayers to God. So to avoid all of that, So to avoid all of that, keep your gremlins to yourself. Killer Key, did you answer if you have children? Do you have children? And weaponized empathy is a thing. It is very much a thing. Trini boy, I am telling you. The crash out, I don't want to say it sure, but I will have to pray. I know I don't want to do all that prayer. Arita, you see like what you saying there, that is not even my daughter and I just even this discussion, like I starting to, if the AC cold and I feel like I starting to sweat because my blood pressure starting to raise. The agitation starting to rise, just the imagination of it. The imagination of it, like, whoo. What did Killer Keely say there? I do not have children, but I'm also not blind. I see what happened with these youths in San Juan. Well, I knew you didn't have children, Killer. That's why you have that weaponized empathy. You see what weaponized empathy is? There's a circle, a heat map. I don't know how many of you know what a heat map is. A heat map where, you know, the color darker red for where there's more of it, and a blue from the red to a shade of blue where it's less of it. And they will show what weaponized empathy is they are a group of people where their empathy starts from, if you have concentric circles, from the people and things closest to you going out to the people and things furthest away from you. there's a group of people that have the most empathy for the things furthest away from them. That's weaponized empathy. Because what that effectively does is it harms the people closest to you. I thought you don't believe in soft science, so why now do you believe in these heat maps? I see you cannot read. I never said I don't believe in soft sciences. I said I hate them. And this is the reason why I hate them. Because people use them, and the fake studies that are created by them to attempt to establish policies like the ones you want to establish with weaponized empathy. People take some fake soft science study, no, not today, Brian, not today, some fake soft science study, and say, good night, fellas, and say that actually parents that use corporal punishment on their children tend to have worse results because those children end up traumatized. Then you go into the study that they use to ban parents beating children, and you recognize they mixed obvious abuse with regular discipline and call the results all the same. So how is this a study? And that's why I have a problem with these degrees and the soft sciences. That's why I have a problem. They take onshore shaky studies and attempt to make mass social policy off of it. And they're wrong. And it's a bunch of childless, university-educated people with their heads in the sky and without a touch for reality that say folly like that. What else you expect social policy to be based on? Here's what I want social policy to be by and large based on. What social policy should be based on, for the most part, is tradition. Because what is tradition? Tradition is social experiments that worked. That's what social policy, for the most of human history, was based on. Tradition. But what the soft sciences did is they came in with studies that prove traditions were wrong. Tradition is not a soft science killer key. Come on now, man. Like, try to make sense now. I understand you have a point you're trying to make. But try to make sense with it. Tradition is a soft science. Tradition is a soft science. I think one of us doesn't understand what soft science means, and it's not me. Okay? Tradition is a soft science. All right. So, to the serious people in the chat, what I think social policy should be is based on tradition, not based on attempted studies by these soft science people. We know what works. We know what a woman is. We can't let a study from 3 years ago tell us that, well, actually women and men have no real main differences. We have done a study and prove it. It is literally sociology. Sociology attempts to study tradition. Sociology is not tradition. That's like saying a mango tree is biology because we study mango trees in biology. A mango tree is not biology. It is studied in biology, but it is not biology. All right. Social experiment is studies, and you see traditional science is experiment based. Anyway, as we were going along, I fully agree with it. In that case, get the students out. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. The violent students cannot be in the same school, cannot be in the same institution as the non-violent students. There shouldn't be any controversy there. It's not healthy when he says he hates a whole school of thought while participating in it. I don't disagree with that. I hate a whole school of thought while participating in it. I hate a whole school of thought because it is used for I said this about 3 times already. The reason I hate the soft sciences is because of things like this, where they attempt to use the studies that they do to make vast social policies. That's why I hate it. Not because they attempt to study tradition, not because they attempt to study social realities. That's grand. I like studying social realities. Yes. I know, Paul, I know. I like studying social realities too. But why I hate it is this. Because they attempt to use it to create vast social policies based on flawed work. Isn't that a simple thing to understand? The social science of fundamentalism. That's not what I advocate for. Deadly force warning draws Trump comparison to return to Kamala and our Venezuelan worries. But even amongst that, I take some positive out of that in the reality that it doesn't seem that's the only direction we're headed. Sobers meets with Venezuela ambassador. Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Sean Sobers held discussions earlier today with Venezuelan Ambassador Alvaro Sanchez Cordero. The meeting was deemed a courtesy call by the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. According to a statement, both sides also discussed matters of mutual interest and concern, inclusive of recent events, with Minister Sobers reiterating the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago's previous request for information from the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Arising out of the discussions, it was agreed that in the spirit of constructive dialogue, open diplomatic channels would be maintained with a view to ensuring that the exchange of information is fair, transparent, and consistent. And you know, this is really in the lane of Trumpism, where yes, something grand might be said, the big ask as he writes on it, and then dialing back to a much saner position. So while Tanti is speaking like shoot at first sight, the diplomats are still diplomating. This gives me some hope. This gives me some hope that it's not all insanity. Ah. Boo says they should have done this first. Yes, yes, that would make sense. That would make sense if they did that first, but they didn't. And here's what I wonder in the political game. If it is that the diplomats could talk and keep things about status quo, while Tance could bump her gum however she so feels, does she actually win in the politics of it? Does she actually win in the politics of it? Because she now has the ability to put out on the record that she has a hard line stance to Venezuela. Although in policy and in reality of the dealings, they're just about the same. Does she win the politics of it? And is it just politics being played on everyone? That's what I wonder. And I mean, in the end, it might actually be very dangerous politics, yes, but politics nonetheless. Activists call on government to work with migrant groups. Human rights activist Sofia Figueroa Leon is welcoming government's announcement that a new migrant policy will be rolled out, but she insists that it needs to be done humanely, holistically, unlike the ones before. One of them told me today, Sofia, we are the new Jewish persecuted by the Nazis, and it's all due to the Venezuelan regime that anywhere any Venezuelan goes, be them honest, hardworking, they are all thrown in the same bag if there is a bad apple, said Figueroa Leon as she shared a conversation she had with a migrant yesterday. During the post-cabinet media briefing on Thursday, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar claimed some Venezuelans may be involved in drug and human trafficking, but have documentation to live and work in TNT. Clearly, they have duped the system, the Prime Minister said. Figueroa said there are steps which can be taken to improve the registration of migrants, such as thorough background checks and requesting at least one valid form of identification. The activist added that fewer Venezuelans are migrating to TNT, and as such, any new policy should be to regularize those here illegally. Here's an issue I have with regularizing people here illegally. Here's a problem I have with regularizing people here illegally. Isn't that an incentive for more people to come here illegally? Because if I know, okay, I come here illegally, it's illegal now, but if I could stay around for a couple years, they're going to regularize me. Then illegal isn't a deterrent. I know, illegal or not, in 2 years I'll be fine. Why even bother with it? I don't like the idea. I don't like the idea of regularizing those here illegally. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's incentive. That's rewarding the people who came here illegally. You get your reward. Then technically you didn't come illegally. Why bother to buy land when I could squat and claim it? Precisely that. Precisely that. And if the reason for the regularization now is X, what would be the reason against the regularization at the next point? I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. And I don't think people could plausibly claim that illegal migrants in Trinidad and Tobago are the reason our economy is staying above. I don't think that's the case. Migrants fearful, uncertain after UNHCR's closure. And again, to return to Chuck the Ness, this is why I hate those soft sciences. Because organizations like this are based on the soft sciences. UNHCR, UN on a whole, they work based on the knowledge of the soft sciences and the truth that migrants strengthen an economy, and the study of human rights and the scientific basis of such. But unfortunately, for a lot of the global mechanism of such, the new US president is not a fan of them. Venezuelan migrants in this country are voicing deep concern and confusion after the announcement that the UN High Commissioner for Refugees will officially close its office in Port of Spain on August 31st, 2025. Upon taking office on January 20th, US President Donald Trump announced cuts to overseas aid. This has caused funding restraints, prompting the UNHCR to close several offices around the world. The announcement of the closure of the Trinidad and Tobago office was made on June 6th. The move, part of a global wave of funding cuts to humanitarian operations, has left many migrants anxious about their future in this country. We are worried, said one migrant who asked to remain anonymous due to fear of legal repercussions. We still do not know what measures will be taken against us. Some of us are considering leaving to avoid further legal issues. Many are uncertain about what will happen. I could not renew my card. And you know what? I thank Donald Trump for this. It's kind of ironic to me. Many of the same believers in these things were the people who taught us things like cultural colonization, cultural erasure. How could it be? How could it be that a foreign country is paying for a foreign organization to bring foreign people into our country, regardless of what we say about it? And then they will sponsor lawsuits against us on behalf of the foreigners using foreign dollars. How is that not an attack on our own sovereignty as a nation? How is that not an attack on our sovereignty? How you mean you could work to bring people into our country and you aren't even from here? You know why? They went to universities and professors told them, this is what good people do. And studies have proven it. And that's why they come here to pester us. All over, not only the Prime Minister of Hungary, all over is fighting that fight. The United Kingdom is currently fighting that fight, and the United Kingdom has in the Labour government, Labour being much less right-wing than the average populace, much less right-wing than Hungary or Poland or the United States right now. But even Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, even him, who is way more liberal than the average, and who started his career as a human rights lawyer, I believe, one of those people who helped them come in, even he is saying it's too much. But why are we allowing it? Who is we? Who is we? And how do we stop it? Some of these things aren't as easy to stop as they seem. Some of these things aren't as easy to stop, and you have to be decisive if you want to stop it. Now, in our case, I don't think it's very easy to stop, because I don't think we even have the resources to man our borders to make sure no pirogue races in with a load of 20 people in a pirogue. I don't think we have the resources to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't think we have the resources to do that. So, like, our best bet, I think, if we wanted to do that, is to make sure every single Venezuelan who touches the shore illegally is posted right back, and they are not given a very comfortable stay. And that will be a disincentive for anyone to repeat that. The problem with that is that for sure is going to go against the human rights documents that we have signed on to. For sure, we're going to have people suing us for falling short of international standards of human rights. So, what will we do? Remember, under the former National Security Minister, some kind of mix-up happened, and they kept the lady in a helipad, and then her son was kept in another spot, and they moved them around a couple of times, and whoops, a couple months later, and it's some hundreds of thousands of dollars we have to pay them because a foreign organization launched a lawsuit on their behalf. So those things aren't necessarily as easy to do, because even if the government wants to do something and they make a decision, they have the ability to bring it up in the courts. And remember, in our case, the highest court in our land isn't even a local court. Do you think we should ask Venezuela for we to be able to interstate these people? What do you mean? Like send them back? Jail them activists. And here's what would happen if we jail them activists, Ronnie. They're going to sue. And like, if we could agree within Trinidad and Tobago, we want to head in that direction, that's splendid. Maybe our even our courts rule in our favor, but our highest court is in London. Yeah, let's look at a case. Woo. This case again will deal with some of the soft sciences. Soft sciences may be the topic in general tonight. Jason Jones gets nod to take buggery law challenge to Privy Council. Nathan and most of us are offsprings of immigrants from smaller islands. I don't know for most, but a good bit of us are, yes. But I don't even think that matters. Okay, a group of immigrants came to a spot. They developed this spot over time. Their children were born. They inherited it. Even though their parents were immigrants, the children still have the ability, I think, the right to determine what goes on with their land. Jason Jones gets nod to take buggery law challenge to Privy Council. Human rights activist Jason Jones is taking his case to declare sections of the Sexual Offences Act unconstitutional to the Privy Council in London, Trinidad and Tobago's final appellate court. In a social media post on June 6th, the UK-based Trinidadian said, "I have just been granted by the TT Court of Appeal their leave for me to appeal to the Privy Council. I now have 3 months to put together my appeal and get things in place for a hearing at the Privy Council sometime next year." Now, in a case like this, I don't think this is something that should be determined by the courts. Bro, back in our parents' time, they used to go and shop, make their livelihood by coming back and retail. I know there are people who still do that virtual vibe. There are people who still do that. But even though we go, they go, there still needs to be a limit at some point. I don't have a problem with general immigration, but over a certain level is just too much. But yeah, I don't think things like what Mr. Jason Jones, I saw that interrogate there truly, is attempting to change, should be changed through the courts. Because what he's attempting to change really and truly is a social policy. A policy that society views one way. I think that's something you should change through your parliament. As in, the members of parliament go in there and vote on behalf of their constituents that they want to make a change to the country's laws based on a change in the view of social interactions in the country. I don't think it's a good idea for the Privy Council out in London to determine how Trinidad and Tobago views buggery. Yeah, I know save laws have different levels of entrenchment, but I believe even the last government was attempting to make a change to that also. But I think all of that is even inconsequential, because I don't think this is the approach to such issues. And the idea that we have an exterior highest court makes this approach to such issues even worse. I don't think that should be determined by the court. It's up to the people. Social views, even if you don't like them, should be up to the people. If India is majority Hindus, and they want to decide that killing a cow in India is a capital offense, I think they should have that right. I think they should have that right. I don't think killing a cow should be a crime. But if the majority of someone's society has that view, don't they have the right for self-determination? I think that's a dangerous argument though. I know it's a dangerous argument, but I think it's the only thing that makes sense. Because I think all of the other alternatives are far more dangerous. I know the same can be said for people who oppose the raising of the marriage age in religious rights. I know. And I agree. As reprehensible as it sounds. If a culture determines X, who is someone outside of the culture to change that determination? Osmano says an authority. An authority that has the ability to implement vast changes on a population against the population's wishes? Are you sure you want an authority to have that? Considering the law is not culturally based, I don't see the problem. But I do believe the law is culturally based. I do think, and Mr. Jason Jones agrees the law is culturally based. That is why he is doing what he is doing. His comment when the appeal court turned over the High Court ruling, his comment was that the support this saw in the national conversation is more sign that we should have turned this over. That was Mr. Jason Jones's comment. Key, you seem not to understand where we're going with the conversation. I am not talking about how the law was formulated. I am not arguing how the law was formulated. I am arguing about support for the law based on social views. Does the law have the popular support of the general society? I don't care if it's saved law or if it was passed last year. I am asking if the law, but that's not the issue I'm tackling, because that's not the issue Mr. Jones is tackling. He's attempting, and he says it here. Let me see if I can quote him here to show that you are incorrect. In a response to the judgment, he released a statement on social media. He said the Court of Appeal put a target on the back of LGBTQ plus people and made them lower class citizens. He also expressed his intention to take the matter to the Privy Council. The comments regarding the recent homophobic ruling reversing the 2018 decriminalization victory reveals how deeply entrenched homophobia is in our society and how threatening and violent citizens can be towards our marginalized communities, citing these laws as needed to protect their rights to be homophobic. So, I am not speaking about the legal merits of the case. Yes, we know that the Privy Council has the legal authority. Like, what are you even talking about? Killer, you're close to muted because you're throwing in nothings. Yes, we know the Privy Council is where legal cases go. Yes, we know this is a legal case. Good, that's on this level. No, I don't mute people I disagree with. I went through the political fray during the elections and didn't mute those I disagreed with. It's not that. Yeah, so the law is at this level. We're not talking about who has the right to do the law and whether it's a legal. We know it's a legal argument that they are making in the court. But the person who is bringing up the case is attempting to change a societal standard. That is what they are doing. They are attempting to change a societal standard using the courts to change that societal standard. I know that the courts have the ability to do that. We aren't arguing that. I am saying I don't think that's how those things should happen. That shouldn't be a court case. That should be to the legislature and let them decide. As in, allow the people to decide what their social views are. You want to tackle homophobia? Tackle homophobia. convince the people that they should be welcoming of your alternate lifestyles, go ahead. Feel free to do such. But I think it quite authoritarian to attempt to use a legal framework instituted since colonial times, ironically enough, to force what you know to be an unpopular cultural view, an unpopular societal view over people. I think that to be of an authoritarian spirit, even if done legally. But you see, the soft science studies people, as seen here, don't have a problem with that. Because the soft science studies told them that homophobia is wrong. So they now have the backing of science to implement that over the world. Because they are sure they are right. The studies say it. Human rights proves it. And what we determine to be human rights should be universally applied to all people, regardless of what they believe. Because the studies will it. But it seems that the truth be told, I don't think much of the LGBTQIA2 plus community has a lot to worry about general Trinidadians. I don't believe they have a lot to worry about from general Trinidadians. Do you believe cultural practices should be prioritized over constitutional rights? I believe cultural practices should be used to shape the Constitution. I believe that the general culture of a place, as in majority culture, as in majority agreed upon culture, should no way be against the Constitution. How does a cultural practice, a popular cultural practice of a place, become outside of the place's constitution? The Constitution is what we constitute to govern ourselves. Why would we have something that governs over us that is against what we all agree upon? And how does that happen except from external authoritarian figures? I know we do not live in a homogeneous society, but I think our society is homogeneous in certain views. I think there are views that are homogeneous. Now, if there are views that are not homogeneous, if you're talking about cultural practices that are niche and only practiced in a minor, small area, well then, those things would have to be brought to the majority and see what the majority says. So you're talking about the child marriage. If the majority of people in Trinidad disagree with the child marriage, then according to our democratic system, the child marriage goes. That's how it works. And the thing is, that is just the reality, because there are places in the world where they all agree together that 16 years is old enough to enter into those kinds of things. They agree with that. And I'm not even talking about some backwards place, they like to call Africa or India. I'm talking about first world nations that think 16 is old enough to jump in. So do you think child marriage being banned in 2017 should have been based on society? Yes, and I think it was. I think in Trinidad and Tobago, popular society, you did not have support for child marriage. Yes, I think it should have been based on society. I know, Ronnie. I am very well aware of which country I was speaking of. And you know what's the irony, Ronnie? Some of the soft science leaders, some of the pioneers of soft sciences, a lot of them came out of France. Go read what they had to say about their scientific view of the age of consent. Go look at it. Those gender studies and go look at it. Go look at what, and some of those people are still alive, with a nasty self. I find it hard to reconcile prioritizing culture over constitutional. Okay, Killer Killy. See, if a majority came together and said, we should shut Orisha believers up, should we let them? Well, the majority would have to first come together and say that we do not agree to freedom of religion. That's what they would have to come together and say. And would they? Does a majority of Trinidad feel that there shouldn't be a freedom of religion? And we can do that. We can do that. There are religions that we could shut down. If Satanism, they tried to make a temple of Satanism in Barataria. Somebody attempts to build one. And the majority of Trinidadians say no. Shouldn't we have the ability to determine we don't want Satanists to build a temple in Trinidad? Shouldn't we have that ability? I think we should. The Islamic world has apostasy laws. I think some of those laws are insane. I don't live there, and if a majority of the people there want them, who am I to say otherwise? I find that to be such an authoritarian spirit. And this, I keep saying it over and over. This is why I hate those studies, because it gives people that kind of arrogance. It gives people that level of social arrogance where I can see, because the studies have proven it, we now know what is the right thing in all realms. And we can determine that and implement it over you regardless of your beliefs. I think that can lead to oppressive regimes. Okay, Killer, you think the majority determining the constitution based on their culture can lead to oppressive regimes? Okay, maybe, sure. Which do you think is more likely to lead to oppressive regimes though? The ability for a minority to implement cultural changes over a majority, or the ability for the majority to determine that their culture determines the constitution? Which do you think has a higher chance of creating oppression? The ability for minorities to determine and change the cultural practices of the majorities, or for the majority to determine the constitution based on their culture? Which one has a higher chance of creating oppressive regimes? Yes, Grindr probably needs a ban. Obviously, minority the basis of socialist theories, lol, but that's not what's happening with Jason. Do you think the majority of Trinidad is... Do you think the majority of Trinidad is in agreement with, let's put it in the broad brush, gay rights? If you were to take a survey of Trinidadians and tell them yes or no on gay rights, what do you think the majority would say? Key. What do you think the majority of Trinidadians would see? You take a survey, walk through Trinidad. No, here's what I'm telling you. All you have on the paper is gay rights. Yes or no? What do you think the majority of Trinidadians would see? Even this right that he is asking for, the right to bugger people if you want. If you put that on a paper, go through the right to bugger people if you want, yes or no, and walk through Trinidad and ask every 1.4 million, if you find them, people, do you think we should have the right to bugger people if you want? You think the majority of Trinidadians will tell you yes in a survey to that? If so, I think you line with a very specific crew of Trinidadians and not with the average Trini. Because I'm pretty sure those surveys won't go that direction. And if we are aware, as just about everybody else in the chat beside you who wants to be honest, if we are aware the majority view of the country, isn't Jason attempting to implement a minority view over the majority? And that is the basis why I think the proper place for this is in the parliament with the legislators. "30 years ago, the majority supported apartheid." I think you don't know what apartheid was. I don't think you know what apartheid was. Apartheid was what Killer is asking for. Apartheid was the minority ruled because they believe they knew best how to run the country better than the majority. That's what apartheid was. Ensuring minority rule because they knew best. And maybe they did. But that's what you are speaking about, Killer. And maybe the minority did. Because economically, by most general global standards, South Africa did better under apartheid than they're doing now under a free government. If that's the case though, do you think it still would make sense for the apartheid regime to stay in charge? I think most people would say no. Because we don't want minority rule. Even if the minority rule is so-called better, we still would say no. But isn't that what this activist is attempting to implement? We just basically all agreed to the conclusion that Trinidad and Tobago isn't too much positive on the LGBTQIA2+ ally side. If you're attempting to get a law to do that, aren't you doing minority implementation? I don't agree that that is what Jason is doing though. He is not asking for a new right. He's asking for a right to be extended to him, you're saying. Okay. Now let's look at it like this. All rights are not extended to everyone. Of the buggery of the laws? I think he will GT because it's the Privy Council. He didn't GT in the appeals court, but I think the Privy Council kind of obviously would go on his side. That's what I think. But in his questioning of the constitutionality, what he is seeking to do is get a minority view to become legalized. That is what he is seeking to do. I think he would get through in CCJ as well if he were to adhere to them. You know, I am actually not sure. That would be very interesting, Killer. And you know, I think that would hold more merit. I think the CCJ, if he were to GT in the CCJ, that would hold much more merit. I think that would hold much more merit. And it may be a shake-up for the entire region if Jamaica brings itself under the CCJ also. That would be interesting. It would be interesting to see what the law lords of the CCJ would say, knowing what the Caribbean culture is. That would be interesting to see. It would be interesting. But yeah, I believe a society has the right to determine such things. And we didn't get through to all of the cases, but just one of those I brought up here because it feels like every week there are about 2 or 3 of these cases here. There are about 2 or 3 of these cases. Early morning grinder meetup ends in robbery. A 25-year-old Arica man was lured into a robbery in Santa Cruz by a man he met on the grinder app early on Monday morning. Police said the man met the stranger on the app and agreed to meet in person at Sun Valley. The man drove his grey Mitsubishi Lancer to the area around 12:45 a.m. when he was confronted by 2 men who beat him before stealing his cell phone, $50 in cash, and his car keys. Homeboy looked like he went with bare essentials. $50 in cash. $50 in cash. He was now. He kind of. I feel he figured something suspect was going on. But listen, fellas. If you all know you're all into that kind of living, if you know you are waiting on Jason to win his case, if you know that you depended on USAID to sponsor the parade down here for this month, if you know you are in that kind of group, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Because this seems to happen every week. I feel like a piece of advice to the fellas and grinder. Fellas, it don't have no hookup in George Street, Nelson Street, and the hotspots of Santa Cruz. Like while I can meet movie tongue. How you walking down, speaking about the previous ones, one walk down George Street and next one was spinning in Nelson Street, you going up in Santa Cruz 1 o'clock in the morning? How? The heat, boy, the heat in this place. Pride very soft this year, almost forgot about it. Yes, because Trump and Musk decommissioned USAID. And what that shows us is the furtherance of the same thing I was saying, that a lot of these things are cultural colonialism, cultural empiricism. They're trying to imperialism, they're trying to bring their culture over and they're astroturfing it. A lot of it isn't natural. The parades all over, the irony is the parades even in the United States weren't organic. Like, people all wanted this and paid for it. All over the world, they are shrinking because their funds dried up. The international funding dried up. So now they have to really be organic with it. And if they have an organic parade, well, you do your parade. I'll be glad that no foreign influence can attempt to astroturf it to make something seem popular when it's not. At least now we legitimately know the popularity levels. And I'd be in full agreement with that. You know, it's similar to what I said even about the Soca Monarch back in the day. If you have some other organization paying for your running of an event and it's not customer based, then you don't get to see exactly how popular the event is. You don't know if people really want that. I don't know, Aretha. I don't know. Anyway, people, that's all I have for now. Killer, I don't mind disagreement. I like disagreement. And what I'd actually prefer you jump in probably on Thursday. Thursdays where we talk. Come over on Thursday. You can enter and you can talk. So it won't be me talking and you typing and having that delay. You could actually talk. And we could have that discussion and see where we disagree and if indeed I am wrong. I have been wrong before, many times. I don't think I'm wrong on this. All right, people, be mindful, not mindless, as Trini en passant says with the porn move. Like, what does that even, what's the suggestion of that? The en passant is what? What is en passant? That's the double move by the porn or something to that effect? Thank you for putting my, bro, I ain't a Frenchman, en passant, or whatever you want to call it. Whatever the pronunciation, I don't know. It means in passing. That's the double move by the pawn. You're a Trini in passing. All right, people, that's all I have for now. Be mindful, not mindless. Hold it down. I hope I see you again for the next Mindful Live, which is supposed to be tomorrow. Well, tonight. We're into the next day already. Later on tonight around that 9:30 p.m. time, once I can get it in. All right, people, until then, stay well, stay blessed. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been... Wait. Before I dive out, let me make sure nobody over on YouTube was attempting to tell me anything and I ignoring the people over on YouTube. That's quite a possibility, eh? That is a possibility. I could have ignored you all over on YouTube, and I will be very sorry if that's the case, but I'm coming here. I'm coming here to see. All right. Are there any comments? No. Good. All right. Grand. Yeah, stay well, people. Later. Stay inside, outside. Sketchy. Go and marry somebody's daughter. Make some babies out there. Reproduce. We need people to pay for our pension when we get old. Don't do like killer. We need babies. Go and make the babies. Babies is ground here. Babies is turning away from the soft sciences. Alright, people, laters. Don't meet no man online, but Ronnie, you and meet Trini en passant.